Welcome to Clay's Cortex.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to episode number 3 of Clay's Cortex, the podcast. My name's Curtis Van Wyk, or the owner of Curtis Clay Training, and I'm located in Woodinville, Washington, a little bit outside Seattle, Washington, or Seattle, the city of Seattle. But yeah, this is episode number 3, technically topic number 2, and I posted on Instagram what I'm going to be talking about essentially, which is exercise related or physical training. And so if you don't follow me on Instagram, check me out, right? It's just called Clay's Cortex. You guys, I can get feedback from you guys on topics you want to talk about, or if you want to dive deeper into a certain topic. If you are listening to the podcast and you would like to watch it, you can also watch it. It's on YouTube. So just search Clay's Cortex. The channel will be there. It's just the episodes in order of this in sequence. So there's a couple different options to watch this. But let's get into the topic. All right. So the topic today I'm going to be talking about related to physical training or exercise is this whole entire debate of machines, exercise machines versus free weights. And that's why I'm filming this podcast, if you're watching it, on this side of the kiln or the gym. Here, I call it the kiln. There's a bunch of machines around me. They're behind me. There's some in front of me. They're to the left, to the right. And that's why I'm filming on this side. And the whole point of this is to get you guys to think differently about, are machines bad or are they good? And is free weights the only way to go? You guys have to make that decision, but I'm going to talk to you about that and how both are just as effective at getting your body and muscular system as healthy and functional and or optimal as possible. So we're going to talk about that. So again, the topic, just to clarify, is machines versus free weights, okay? So it was interesting because today I was talking with some of the guys here at the kiln, and we were talking essentially about, they asked us a question about like different exercises or how to focus on moving the shoulder blades in this aspect when doing a row and so forth. And I thought it was a really, really, really good question. And it got me to thinking essentially, wow, that's a great explanation of machines versus free weights and so forth. And the cool thing is we've all been exposed to this, I would call it physics-based weight training, and it's called RTS, right? It's a way to think as a trainer to construct, build exercises for your clients that will help them without abusing their joint structures and or muscles and stimulating the muscles as appropriately as possible. And the creator of that is Tom Purvis, and I'll talk about him throughout this podcast. He's been a big influence on me on how I think about exercise and how to think objectively, how to look at something, figure out what that person's trying to do as a trainer and so forth, and be like, okay, can I make that better, right? Because essentially, like when I was in college, we went through biomechanics, we're like, this is how you squat. And I got to that class and he said, well, whoever said that's the only way to squat, right? What if somebody's got a bar on their back? What if somebody's got a bar in front of them? How is their body built? Should they be squatting like that? And so that's what he kind of goes through throughout his courses. I'd highly recommend them. They're very good courses to get you think as a trainer to become professional. But let's get into this, okay? So the fitness industry, right? There was a huge movement, not to be funny, but a huge movement in we should only train movements, not train muscles, right? And so that's when this whole entire separation happened where people were like, we shouldn't use weight machines or machines for exercise. We should only do free weights or use TRXs or, use just your body and use free weights because it's more functional, right? Which I thought was really interesting. And I think that movement was really going on when I first started getting out of college. I got exposed to the TRX and started seeing some stuff and you should train these movements, don't worry about muscles, right? And all that kind of stuff. And so, and the reason why they were saying that is because they were saying it's not functional. Machines are not functional for you. And essentially, what was interesting is if I look at the definition of functional, right? Let me read it. So the definition of functional is of or having a special activity, purpose, or task relating to the way in which something works or operates. And the interesting thing is I get why they use the word functional, right? Because, if we do a lunge, that's just it's like an exaggerated version of taking a step, right? Or if we do deadlifts, it's like picking boxes up if that's what you do all day for your job. I thought it's not a bad word to use, it's just a word, right? Words are powerful, and looking at this definition, if I apply this to the human body, right? Our body is a system that's integrated amongst many subsystems, right? And if I need to move, I'm going to be using, in this scenario, I'm going to be using my muscles. So why not think about training my muscles to help the movements happen, right? So that's where I was kind of like, wait, if we just train movements, it's just rehearsing motion. We're not actually volitionally or intentionally moving our joints while using our muscles, because our muscles, as they shorten and lengthen, they help your body move, right? So why not train that? And sometimes machines are a better option for that. And sometimes free weights are an even tougher option, or it's a better option. It just depends, right? So again, the reason why I want to go over this too is a guy that's really famous on Instagram, he talked about essentially in a post on Instagram, and this dude's killing it, right? Like everybody's following him, checking him out, following his program, and it's cool because he's really trying to help people, you know, be pain-free and so forth. But he posted a video about how machines are not a good option, and he had this thing rigged up in the squat rack, and it was almost like on a fixed path, right? Similar to a machine. A machine, when you use it, has limited degrees of motion. It's on a fixed path, right? Our body has unlimited degrees of freedom. I can move my shoulder here, there, so forth, but if I'm doing an exercise, it moves in a path of motion. Well, the funny thing is he set it up and he was talking about in this video how essentially machines are not a good option to use, but he was setting something up in a squat rack to where it was on a fixed path, and that was like a man-made machine, right? I mean, all machines are made by man, but you know what I'm saying. It's like a quick setup to make a machine. It had a path that it was following when doing the exercise. And I commented, I said, hey, well, what's wrong with machines? You know, I was just curious. And his response back was, you can't fit people into machines. And I was like, wow. Very quick, concise comment. He probably gets a lot, or response back. He probably gets a lot of comments, you know, and he's trying to keep his social media feed up and stay busy and stuff, which is cool, man. I respect that. He's making a living, doing his thing. Cool. But the thing is, though, is that what he didn't realize was that he had set up a really, really bad machine, essentially, right? It was on a fixed path, and he attached bands to this exercise. And bands don't match how our muscles work, right? So let me get a little quick recap into that. When you if I do a bicep curl, right, and I flex that or bend my elbow, and my muscles shorten all the way, I'm in a weaker position. If I'm in a lengthened position, I'm also in a weaker position, right? Shorten tires out faster than lengthen. In the mid-range is like the one that's like the strongest, right? Those cross bridges are locked in. I can produce more force. Now, depending on the stresses you've gone throughout life, that may vary, right? But across the board, if you pull a muscle out of your body, look at one sarcomere, that's how it kind of works, okay? So if we apply that throughout the entire body and how muscles work, that exercise that he set up was essentially, he had bands attached to it, and bands get tougher as you extend them or lengthen them, right? It's an elastomer. So at the end of the position of the motion, he was in a shortened position, which was making the bands the heaviest and hardest. So that exercise, which was on a fixed path, and it didn't even match how his muscles worked physiologically, right? So I was like, dude, what is going on? You built an exercise, man-made machine in a squat rack, attached bands to it, and said, this is good to do, because essentially with your comment, I'm making an assumption you can fit people into this exercise. Now I'm going to make an assumption saying that I understand that what he was saying is that it's hard to fit a wide variety of people into exercise machines. Man, I would agree. I mean, there's a guy I work with, he's 7'1" maybe. He's definitely 7 feet. There's no way there's many machines in here that can fit him, right? Like if I use this machine behind me, if you're watching, there's a trunk rotation machine here for your thoracic spine, or your upper body essentially, and there's no way he's gonna fit in that machine, right? There's no way. His head's gonna be hitting the top of the thing, so guess what we don't do? We don't use that. So if I go back to RTS, it's like, how do you build an exercise for a person to make it fit them and challenge what you want to challenge? What muscles do you want to challenge that create that motion? And so, again, that course is really good, but I get the aspect that you can't fit people into machines all the time based off, we're all different shapes and sizes, right? Different femur lengths, different torso lengths, and arm lengths and so forth. But machines are effective if used appropriately, right? So one thing, if I go back to what Tom Purvis said at RTS, and I remember this, it was like weekend 1, I think, when I was going, which was essentially it used to be Science 1, he's changed the whole format, but he said, you don't know what type of trainer or how good a trainer you are until you work with someone that can't do the exercise that you want them to do, right? If you're like, hey, just squat, stand up, and they can't, what do? There's no way I could go to the free weight side of things and do functional training. I could use TRX straps, which are in the functional category, but those things help create support, right? And let's talk about support. Machines help create support within your body. So you can just focus on working a certain area because nothing else is moving, right? Nothing else is moving. You're just moving that area that's being loaded by the machine. That's not a bad option. It's not the option you should potentially always do. Maybe you should mix it up and go back and forth, right? Do some free weights, do some machines. Say you do, for example, a leg extension, right? That's like the devil machine, leg extensions, right? The only thing though is that that's the only machine that can challenge your quads in a fully shortened position, because if I do a lunge, I'm not going to be challenging my quads unless I use another cable machine or a band out in front of me that could challenge at that shortened position. But in that position, my joints are stacked, which still makes it really easy compared to a leg extension. There's nothing wrong with machines. They create support and give people the opportunity to actually work that muscle and work the pieces that can help them in that scenario stand up and do a squat, get out of a chair, whatever it is, right? And I'll go back to that quote. You don't know how good of a trainer you are until you work with somebody that can't do the exercise that you are wanting them to do, right?